To the show now, Vice Chairman of the Ghana at 60 Planning Committee, Samuel Abujinapo, says Ghana's history has contributed to the skepticism expressed by a section of the public on the planned celebrations. Now, some Ghanaians have expressed concerns about the Ghana at 60 celebrations, citing the scandal that rocked the Jubilee celebrations as a reason. Now, President Akufo-Addo at the inauguration program at the Flagstaff House on Thursday tasked the committee to be modest in their programs of activities due to challenges facing the economy. Vice Chairman of the committee, Samuel Abujinapo, in an interview with Joy News' Maxwell Agbagba, says the committee is mindful of this past and will be frugal in the celebrations.
What would be the legacy of Ghana at 60 celebration?
Some discussions are ongoing between stakeholders, among stakeholders in government, and a very appropriate time, sooner than you think. You can imagine we're going to come out with some initiatives and programs and roadmaps in relation to the 60th independence anniversary celebration of our country. But you should be rest assured that we're going to have a few worthy and dignified legacy projects for the 60th anniversary celebrations. That's certainly what happened.
For Ghana at 50, for instance, we know the Secretariat actually put in some plans to internally generate funds. I mean, there were a lot of things going on to raise funds to fund the celebration. Do we have that also for Ghana at 60?
The committee members will meet, deliberate, and come up with a strategy of dealing with the 60th anniversary celebration. But on top of my head, and personally, I think the guiding principle for the committee should be to package this anniversary celebration in a way that will be so attractive that key stakeholders or players or private sector players will be interested in associating or partnering or subscribing to this anniversary. So let's say we should be able to package this celebration in such a way that Joy FM and its competitors or Joy News and its competitors will be very eager to be the official media broadcast what have you for the celebration or associated with the celebration, and the celebration is so attractive that you want to be the official media outlet, and that in itself generates competition, and that can be a source of funding for the committee. So this is a task that we have to surmount, an intelligent, skillful approach in getting the 60th Diamond Jubilee celebration so attractive that, for instance, the telcos will be competing among themselves to partner with us in respect of this anniversary, or that this or that. But that is a task ahead of us which we are going to have to intelligently deal with.
But can you assure us that you know, in going to these corporate organizations, I mean, we will not be taking loans, because in the past celebration, we had to take $11 million loan from Fidelity Bank to celebrate.
Well, I've told you that we're in a completely new era. But I've said this lightly, that 50 years ago, it's 10 years ago. We are 60 today. And 10 years in the life of a human being is not mean a span, let alone a country. We must have learned some lessons, and we must be moving on.
What do you say to critics who say that we could have channeled these resources that we're using for the celebration into other areas? For instance, the power sector is struggling, though it has stabilized a bit now. There's more we can do.
What about
the power sector, education sector?
What about building a power plant as a legacy project for 60th anniversary?
Yeah, that would be beautiful.
Okay, so we're going to have an opportunity to talk about all of these things and then tailor the celebrations in a way that is productive in and by itself, and not just be a fanfare affair, but be a celebration which is also productive and substantive in terms of the needs of our people.
Okay. Another issue also has to do with the length of the celebration. Ghana 50 was a year-long celebration. 6th March is just around the corner. Are we climaxing? Are we going to see a climax of the celebration after 6th March?
Okay, these matters have come up already, and they are up for discussion. The discussion is ongoing. The committee is going to have its maiden meeting pretty soon, and we're going to have a conversation about the duration of the celebration. I think all manner of factors will come to play in taking that decision, and these matters will certainly come up. They will come up in due course.
Okay, but will the celebrations be replicated across the various regions?
Oh, certainly. Even the normal independence celebration is replicated across the various regions, let alone the 60th anniversary celebration. It certainly should, and it will.
Now, the Ghana 50 had a secretariat. I mean, you could walk in there and have discussions with members of the committee and all of that. Will the Ghana 60 celebration committee have a secretariat? Will they have a secretariat where you can go, or you'll be stationed here at the Flagstaff?
These are early days yet. These are really early days yet. We will have a conversation around it, and they will come up with definitive decisions as to where and how the operation should take place. In the manner of this kind of endeavor and the operational requirements and the administrative requirements in there, I'm sure will require some office space, but these are matters that will be discussed by the committee.
Okay. Now let's come to the members of the committee itself. I mean, some names are out there, but maybe you want to speak to the pedigree and the expertise of these people who have been put together to put this celebration together for us.
Well, these persons were selected carefully. Apart from the institutional representation, which I explained to you, that you cannot, for instance, have school children marching on Independence Day without the involvement of Ghana Education Service. If for nothing at all, you need permission from Ghana Education Service for children to be released onto the parks to march or to participate in these celebrations. So Ghana Education Service, for instance, has a rep on the committee. The Ghana Armed Forces, the same thing. The Ministry of Tourism and Creative Arts, because it's going to involve a lot of the culture of our country and the creative art industry and the rest. So the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Art has a representative on this committee, and that's why the committee may even look big, the 30-man committee. Most of them are institutional representation, and the institutional representation has been the norm in the past, and we found it worthy of emulation, and therefore these are members of the committee. The other persons who are on the committee are really persons who ordinarily will be called upon to play one role or the other. As you know, the committee is chaired by a distinguished PR person, Mr. Kenamankwa, who has a lot of expertise and experience in these matters. I'm the vice chair. Vice chair for very obvious reasons. These matters are normally under the office of the president, the presidency, and the chief of staff has oversight responsibility over the conduct of matters like this. So her deputy is there. It makes smooth interface between that office and the committee. The director of communication, for instance, is a member. We're going to be dealing with a lot of communications issues from the presidency in relation to this 60th anniversary celebration. So if he's on the committee, instead of writing to him or going to him or getting to his directly to liaise with him for something or the other to be done, he's right there. It makes things smoother. The director of operations of the presidency is there. It's going to require a lot of operational matters. These are people who played critical roles in the investiture of President Akufo-Addo. So almost everybody who is on the committee has a seat around the committee's table for very good reasons and very tangible, substantive grounds. And it's all intended for us to have a celebration which will meet the expectations of the Ghanaian people. But I think it's important for me to add one more point, which is that we're going to have even more people, because we're going to have subcommittees, and there are people who have already expressed interest to do poetry, some want to write books, some want to tell the history of our country, some want to engage media men and women, some want to prosecute some commercial ventures or enterprises which will generate revenue for the committee and even for the country and contribute to the economy. So at the end of the day, we're going to have so many people. It's not going to be 30-man. It's not going to be the 30 members of the committee who are going to end up prosecuting this 60th anniversary. It will be a large army of people. The most important thing that are we putting together people to go and fleece the public purse or to go and line their pockets with fat allowances, or to engage in ostentatious and to for want of a better expression, profligate expenditure. Is that what we're going to do? If that is what we're going to do, even if the committee membership was made up of one person, it's a problem. But if we require 500 people to ensure that we achieve our objective, but these 500 people will find their role as public service, as service to the country, and not be minded or interested in what they get personally, but what they give to their country, and find their participation and involvement in this enterprise in and by itself as sufficient honor and privilege, then it could be 1,000.
Are we going to tailor the program lineup to suit whatever targets or expectations that we want to meet with the celebration?
It's going to be a Ghana project. It's going to be a Ghana enterprise. It's going to be a celebration by Ghanaians and for Ghanaians. I don't pretend to have all the answers. In respect of some of these ideas, which I find brilliant, get us a concept paper. Let's take a look. Let's discuss it. Yeah, we don't have all the answers. The committee members don't have all the answers. The chairman doesn't have all the. I don't have all the answers. Even the president, with the greatest respect, doesn't have all the answers. So whatever you think we can do, so that we don't have a jamboree, we have a cultural display instead. We have a celebration which is uniting and whatever. Of course, uniting we will do, but think of getting us a concept paper. Let's have a conversation. And everybody who's watching and who has some idea or the other, or who thinks of how we should approach this and whatever, our doors are always open, and we're happy to have a conversation with any and everybody. Okay. It's our country. It's all of us, our country, and all of us are going to have to contribute and get involved in getting it done and done well.
The corporate organizations that you're looking forward to, going for some support, because some of the corporate institutions that we have are also state institutions. So, if you say corporate, what exactly?
We haven't got into the details yet.
Okay.
Yes, we haven't got into the details yet. But I do know state corporations who to whom marketing is extremely important for them. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not as if whenever you have a state corporation, advertisement or marketing is not a necessary weapon for their forward march or their advancement. There are state corporations who which requires advertisement or marketing or branding, and therefore if the 60th anniversary is designed in a way that is catchy and that is attractive and that becomes a positive and worthy enterprise to be associated with, and in the judgment of a state corporation, associating with the 60th anniversary will advance their purpose and objectives. I think that we as committee members will just find an intelligent way of making the anniversary that attractive, to find all manner of entities wanting to be part of or partners of that anniversary, including state corporations.
So that was Abu Jinapo. He is the vice chair of the Ghana at 60 Planning Committee, speaking to my colleague Maxwell Agba. But meanwhile, on the busy streets of Accra, a cross-section of the general public have been sharing their views on the celebration of Ghana at 60. Some expressed their displeasure on the overspending of budget allocated for the celebration.
Since God has been so good to us as a country, we've seen 60 years. But also I have to say is with the economy as it is right now, if we could have something simple, at least to commemorate Ghana at 60, and let him concentrate more on about reducing taxes. Because seriously, people are suffering. That's why we voted for him, to come down on the taxes. At least if the taxes go down, at least we could also, because we are into business, seriously, the taxes is seriously draining us.
For me, I want something simple, because the nation is already going through a lot, which for my expectation, I wanted something very simple. No celebration to take much money out of the coffers, but rather something that will rather gain. Or maybe for my advice, I would rather go for selecting people to rather go out to the schools to tell them about the history of Ghana and why we need to be grateful to the freedom that we are having. That is what I'll be suggesting to him, and also that is my expectation.
We heard of Ghana at 50, and there was a lot of controversy. I'm hoping we will not repeat what happened in Ghana at 50. Definitely, I want it to be simple, not too much elegance, simple, not too much spending, and that's all.
Expectation is that we have spent Ghana at 40, Ghana at 50, and then this Ghana at 60. And as the president said, he didn't know the economy is broke. So I expect that they should minimize the celebration. And then I also learned one of the committee members said that instead of spending money, they would rather get money for the nation. So I expect that money should come so that at least we will use the money for other things. Even the blasters, they have even reduced their bonuses. So why should we spend money or necessary money?
So this very issue of celebrating Ghana at 50 has become very controversial. You get onto social media and a lot of people are expressing their displeasure on overspending of the budget allocated for the celebration of Ghana at 50, and not this particular one because we don't even know the budget yet. Now, even as we prepare to celebrate Ghana at 60, a lot of people believe this country is one, rich in a lot of resources, but has not been able to reach its full potential. And one such person is Professor Stephen Adair, former rector of GIMPA, and he thinks that it is a leadership problem.
I'm using this to illustrate the power of leadership modeling. And that is why I believe that the fish rose from the head, as my friend Bob Garrett calls his book. If the leadership is clean, invariably, the level of corruption immediately goes down. And if the leadership is perceived to be corrupt, immediately corruption becomes the norm. And we've seen it in regime after regime when this thing happens. Definitely, in the early half of Rawlings' time, for different reasons, brutalism and other things, corruption went down. Under the same military rule, a champion, corruption after 3 years shot to the roof. There's no doubt that another corruption peaked under Mohammed's regime. And it's just the perception of whether the leader is going to be anti-corruption or modeling it. So the first is the modeling of the leadership affects national psyche and the behavior of people. Another way that leaders make a lot of difference, it's the leadership impacts the national culture. National culture. For example, those of us who are a bit older, under Champion's time, the first 2 years, everybody was planting maize at their backyard and everything else. Why? Because the leadership, more through the work of Colonel Banasco, who was the Minister for Agriculture, everybody was planting. And it's amazing when the leaders start, if they have credibility, we'll come back to that. If they don't have credibility, for example, when they wanted us to clean the gutters, after 2 months, everybody stopped. It's not that they introduced it at a point when they had lost credibility. If, for example, they had started when they came in power, when they hadn't lost credibility, it would have caught on. So, but basically, leaders have a very powerful way of affecting the culture of every society and the country. And culture matters. By culture here, I'm not talking about, what they call bare-chested, breasted, women dancing and then putting chiefs who have ridden to the park in a Mercedes-Benz, in a palanquin to show that they are traditional rulers. I mean, that is a type of culture, 400 years, what our ancient people were doing. When you do it today, then it's culture. No. In economics and sociology, that is not culture. That is some falsified, fossilized social norms. And sometimes they retard progress. A lot of the things we are holding on to as culture are actually anti-development. And so our attitude to work and other things which we have inherited, they must change. And you can see that when the same Ghanaian you put in another culture, they produce twice, 3 times. By culture, I'm talking about the beliefs, the norms, and the behaviors of the people, contemporary. That's what I'm talking about. And those ones, one of the major functions of leadership is to change the culture of people. I personally believe that if Ghanaians only change our attitude to work, we can double our national income within 2 years from the same resources. I mean, people think that, all my time I worked at Gimpa, only 9 years towards retirement, I worked everywhere else. But what people considered the miracle of Gimpa was largely changing people's attitude and beliefs. And that they knew that if they would not work, they would not eat. For example, my people nearly killed me when after 1 year, I came to them to say that from today, I've told the government to take all subvention from Gimpa. He says, what? I remember the current acting chairman of NPP, he was then the deputy speaker on the government committee, even during the early days of NPP. And he asked me, Stephen, more or less, he didn't use the same words, but that's what he meant. Are you normal? You say you don't want money. 50% of Gimpa was being subvented, and you say you don't want it. I said, yes, sir. And then I'm sure my people were saying, we knew that this man, we heard that he was crazy, but now we have the confirmation he's totally mad. And I told them that from today, if you are in Gimpa and you never earn your keep, you will not earn your salary. That's what it means. And I had the joy of presiding with the same Ghanaians, no foreign assistance, seeing in 9 years our turnover increasing from $500,000 to $15 million. And we were the highest paid educational institution workers in Ghana, 50% above Legon. And people didn't know, it's a culture change. And people don't realize sometimes I get worried when our political leaders go to the traditional leaders and other things and say that, let us maintain our culture, we respect the Ghanaian culture. I says, which culture? You cannot continue to hustle because to behave the same way and expect a different type of results is the highest level of lunacy. We must, and it's the leadership. The leaders are not supposed to be the ones who go and dig gold and do that. No, they change the culture of the people. And when the culture changes, then the output, economic output. Another way whereby leadership is the governance system. The governance system. I'm talking about the level of accountability, integrity, and transparency of the systems. I mean, because it creates the milieu in which people work, the level to which institutions are allowed to function efficiently. Those in the business people know. Imagine, I always use this, not because I love Namibia more than Ghana, but I happen to be the UN ambassador there for 4.5 years. And what struck me is that it takes only 3 steps to clear a good in Walvis Bay, the port of Namibia. Simple. You go there, they ask you, is that yours? Is that good yours? The only 2 things shows you are yours. Your way bill and your identity. That's it. The next is they go to computer. And then they tell you, is it dutiable or not? In my case, it was not dutiable because I'm an ambassador. It's a good life. But if you are dutiable, as soon as they press the computer, your duty is there. And the next is that there's a bank next door. You pay your duty, and you take your good out. So that when we had things, Vargas Bay was 6 hours from 300 kilometers, because I didn't say 6 hours, because I knew that my driver, Bruce, was sometimes doing 120 to 140 on the roads, the way he comes quickly. When we had something to collect at the port, we don't send an officer, we send a driver. He takes public transport with the ID and the waybill. And 300 kilometers by 3 p.m. that same day, I'll be there, and I know he's coming, because he shouts my name, Daddy, before he gets to I'm back. And he has gone with the public transport, cleared the car, and driven it 300 kilometers back in the same day. When I was Deputy Director of Ghana Investment Promotion Center, used to be called Capital Investment Board, I did a research, and it took, and I've forgotten because I did two things. So one was 53 and one was 52. But anyway, it's so close, that doesn't matter. It took 52 or 53 steps to clear anything from Tema Harbour. 53 steps. And this is the only country I know of, I mean, because other places may be worse, but I haven't cleared things there, where somebody like me, with a PhD in international trade and finance, cannot even clear a pencil from the port. I require a semi-illiterate agent. Why? Because he knows where to pay the bribe and other things, and then navigate the 53 steps. Because a place called the Long Room, you can go in and out. Long Room, and it's very, very long. 2 weeks before you clear a car. And I cleared one thing in there in 1973, when I returned with my master's degree, and I have never personally ever cleared anything there, and I hear it's still as bad. This is the institutions. When we talk about institutions, that's what we mean. The passport office, the GRA, which has become not a Ghana Revenue Authority, but Ghana den of thieves and robbers. That, so that actually those who want to pay their taxes normal have more difficulty than those who would like to bribe their way. When I had a situation whereby I thought that the staff was being corrupt, and I told Mr. Blankson of the GRA commissioner, do you know what? That he should take care of that. He goes and tells all his people, and the company where they wanted to rob them is now being harassed, because they just write you have 2.5 million tax. The company has been in existence for less than 10 years. All their revenue is less than 10 million for all those years. But 1 year, they said they sent them they should have 2.5 million arrears to pay. And this is when our institutions don't work, and it's the leadership responsibility to make them work, then businesses suffer. And this is a leadership responsibility. That's the channel through which the leaders affect the sectors. You expected me to talk about the economic ones, but because these ones are much more fundamental. The economics is very easy to fix. As a professor of economics, I know that what it takes to manage an economy. My third year, fourth year students know it if they have done development economics. But it's these things, the modeling, the institutional issues should be the first to be tackled. And then, of course, the management of the economy. The leaders affect all the sectors through the management of the economy. There's no reason why, in this day and age, a businessman in Ghana should take a loan at 33%. That is, when you have it cheap, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. In other words, when you take the loan, God help you if you have a 1 year gestation period before you start production. If you took 1 million before you did the first production, you should have paid the bank 333,000 cedis. You haven't produced anything. And sometimes, I laugh when the Bank of Ghana, the governors come, in inflation targeting and other things. No, this is absolutely rubbish. You cannot have a situation whereby the real sectors are totally being destroyed and you say you are inflation targeting. And therefore, people should pay between 35 and 40% interest rate on that. I wish all the Bank of Ghana officials would be sent to go and manage one company for 2 weeks at 33%. And when they succeed, they will be sent back to manage. That's one of the troubles we have in our countries. Oftentimes, people who are in the bureaucracies have never had any real world experience. They finish, they have their PhDs, the other things. They have worked in IMF and the World Bank, basically in the bureaucracy, except that it's an international bureaucracy. They get their positions by virtue of their sometimes relationships with the top. And then they never. I think that you, the business people, should give them free chance to come and spend 6 months with you. They will go back with all their minds changed. Unless a country like Ghana has an interest rate less than 15%, the country is not going anywhere. Let me tell you the reason why. Pardon me to use a technical word. In economics, we have something we call ICO. You don't hear it because they don't use it. Incremental capital output ratio, which is the underlying rate of real return of an economy. I estimate that the ICO rate of Ghana is not more than 15%. The real returns, you may get about 50%, but of course, if inflation has taken this and your interest rate, but the real return is about 15%. And therefore, you cannot expect businesses to thrive other than businesses which are linked to inflation and this high interest rate, which is the banks. That's the only ones who are surviving. If your rate of interest is higher than your ICO. What am I saying is that it is important, it's a leadership responsibility to make sure that the macro framework is strong, and not just a matter of theoretically strong, but they are set positioned to support the real sector. And here we are talking about interest rate, the cost of capital. Again, how to manage well the national commons.
Thank you, Professor. You still have about half an hour for your interesting lecture.
Okay, thank you very much.
Question and answers.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I thought you said that his time is up. Again, a lot is being said. When you, as a country, I know that we have limited capital expenditure. How you target them. At this moment, for example, in Ghana, yes, everything can be done, but you can't do all of them. But selectively, there are certain areas that require the greatest attention. I believe that the number one constraint in this infrastructural utility has to do with electricity. No matter what it takes, we must have industrial and business sectors assured of electricity. And I believe that we can do it even within the current system. For example, why should domestic people be having electricity in their houses in the daytime? Most of them want electricity between 5 and 8 o'clock. So, at a certain time, you ration it, and you say that in the time-wise, when we were doing Dumso, it was, this area gets this. No. We should have made it that between 7 a.m. and 5:30 p.m., all the industries are assured of whatever electricity is available, then the rest we can.
So just gone by is Professor Stephen Adair, former rector of GIMPA, sharing why he believes the problem of the country hinges on leadership. You're watching The Pulse with me, Benis Abubedu. We'll take a quick break. When I come back, I'll be telling you more about a debate that Joy FM is organizing on the relevance of the Council of State. Please stay with us.